All right, I want to look at Apple stock right now. It had been up a lot more earlier. In fact, it had been up a lot more earlier in the year, caught off in that downdraft that hit NASDAQ stocks very, very hard. NASDAQ underwater today. Apple is considered a bellwether for the technology world, like it or not. And anytime it has a big announcement, the world does pay attention, even if they're not Apple shareholders, because Apple kind of leads the way. Back when I was just a cub reporter about 4 years ago. Okay, 30 years ago. It used to be companies like IBM and Microsoft in the high-tech world. Biogen was another one in the biotech world. Apple fills that role out today. It and Google, Amazon, they're all sort of in that very elite club. As they go, so go the rest of the markets here. But Apple has fallen on hard times, that it's kind of lost its luster, that it's more evolutionary in its product introduction, not so revolutionary. In fact, activist shareholder Justin Danhoff is demanding a lot more than just these evolutionary advancements in, let's say, a phone. I think the iPhone 6S or whatever they're calling it, Justin, is going to have a faster processor, a better camera. I don't understand these things, but it won't be a huge leap from what's already out there. Hence your frustration. If this is a big announcement, then you want to see what a lousy one is, right?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Neil, for letting me be inside this air-conditioned studio down here in D.C.
It's really bad down there, I guess. But
brutal. Yeah, so today's announcement going to come down in about 35 minutes. Really, we don't see anything revolutionary happening today. We could be proven wrong, but all of the rumors, the most revolutionary advancement is going to be something called Touch Force, which may allow people to take less pictures of the inside of their pocket accidentally. So if that's the revolutionary...
Now, that's a rather demeaning characterization of this new technology that makes it easier to get information. But I know where you're coming from. You're a critic. But you don't think the company's doing what it did under Steve Jobs and constantly innovating? What about a larger iPad? What about one even that has a stylus? What about Apple TV and doing a lot of things that have taken all these genres to whole new levels? Not enough for you, huh?
Sure. Well, these are all short-term things anyway. I think that perhaps the Apple TV, if there was original content being announced today, that would be wonderful. But again, that wouldn't even be leading, because they would just be following Netflix and Amazon Prime. And there's really, the rumor mill is saying there isn't going to be an original content announcement anyway.
Well,
and these are short.
Maybe they didn't get it together. Justin, I'm wondering, and you raised a very good point last time you were here, that maybe we set such high expectations for Apple because of who Apple is or what it is, that any company that were to sell 35 or 40 million gadgets in a typical quarter, I mean, there would be some that would be elated to sell a fraction of that. Yet the standards for Apple are different. Isn't it fair to say, and I know your views on Apple and your criticisms, and they're all valid, but isn't it fair to say that Apple is hurt by its own good prior press? Hard to keep topping that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that a lot of times in the markets we have a lot of short-term reactions. But I think that there's two stories that are very interesting in the last 3 weeks about Apple that shed some light on some very long-term concerns about Tim Cook. If I could just touch on them briefly. The first is, you'll recall, as the markets were yo-yoing back and forth, on a very down day, Jim Cramer got an email from Apple CEO Tim Cook that calmed the waters, so to speak. Well, the SEC should be investigating that email under its fair disclosure regulations, because Jim Cramer is not only a newsman, but he's also a portfolio manager. So for Cook to disclose how Apple was apparently doing with its sales in China, he clearly broke the fair disclosure regulations.
What did he say? Did he say they were not doing well, or
no? They said they were doing well, and the waters calmed. And that's actually one of the tests under the fair disclosure regulations of whether or not there was impact.
But you've also been critical of
disclosure.
Tim Cook for advancing all these issues, like gay issues and the rest. He, of course, is gay himself. Not that it matters, but you think that he gets sidetracked on all of this other stuff.
I think he gets sidetracked, and he's trying to build political clout with the leftist class in D.C., which is maybe why we haven't heard about an SEC investigation into this email. It's maybe why the front page of the New York Times, A1 yesterday, ran an article that the Department of Justice got a court order for Apple to comply earlier this summer with a case involving guns and drugs, and they wanted the text messages between the suspects. Apple's answer to that court order? No. Tim Cook has kind of positioned himself as this privacy expert.
Well, it cuts both ways. Yeah, I see where you're coming
but in the long-term sense, those who take on the Department of Justice and the FBI here in Washington, D.C., as a long-term shareholder, I'm very, very concerned about the way Apple is positioning itself on these privacy issues. He may be right on the law in the end, but this could be a long, protracted, litigated battle.
And a sidetrack issue, as you say, when they should be looking at products. I do see where you're coming from with it, regardless of people politically agree with you or not. Justin, thank you.